We're going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're live! Hello all, and welcome back to the INVICTUS stream. My name, as always, is Mr. Harlan Guthrie, and I am here with the one and only Miss Joe Fallak, eating green beans, the lovely and talented Mr. Justin Thomas James, and we are here tonight with a brand new one-shot system. The title of tonight's adventure is Blue Rose, what was the subtitle?
The Chromatic Soul.
I think the subtitle was just colon.
Just colon.
Blue Rose. colon.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are so excited to be here tonight with a brand new system. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
If this is your first time watching the INVICTUS stream, perfect video to start. Justin is a handsome man and a fantastic GM, it's good. We do this every Wednesday at 8 o'clock. We live stream role-playing games, hanging around the virtual table with you, the community, to chat along and sort of make us feel better about ourselves. So thank you so much for being here tonight. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like the video and subscribe to us. If you're watching this on one of the other platforms, I don't care as much because I don't know how they work. Also, jump over to Facebook and join the Facebook group. The Facebook group is the place where we get together and we hang out and we have just the most fun. What are some things that we can do on the Facebook group, Joe? What are the benefits?
Well, you can participate in polls that we have where you can influence games before and as they happen. You can also talk to us.
Talk to the animals.
Our amazing community. You can talk to the people who like to hang out on the Discord, which is where the fun happens on game night. And,
wait, tonight's game night!
What? What do you mean?
But that's where we are now.
That's right now.
There are a lot of things you can do on the Facebook group, and when you're part of the Facebook group, you also have a chance to win the most valuable post. Now, the most valuable post is the post of the week that we sort of highlight amongst the rest of the drivel. No, it's the one that we sort of like to lift out and say, hey, this is particularly awesome. And this week, we would like to give it to the one and only Miss Heather Connor. That's right. She had a post about running a Call of Cthulhu game and sort of asked for a bit of advice from the community, and it was such a fantastic discussion between the community, and it really sort of highlighted what we want to achieve with the Facebook group, a sense of community and a sense of belonging and a sense of just passionate. So thank you, Heather, for doing that, and you win Most Valuable Post. One more round of applause. I typically do an 18+ warning. I don't know, what do you think? Is it going to be 18+ tonight, Justin?
Probably not.
Depends how much sex animal sex.
Oh, right,
well,
I was about to say.
Now it's 18+, Joe. You just
Sorry.
rated 18+.
You just 18+'d
that out.
Can't edit it out.
I can't guarantee there will be no animal sex, but I don't think there's going to be any animal sex. I mean, whatever. I don't know what players are going to do. You know, you never know.
I'm gonna do my little.
All right.
Hey, you had to. Literally, I had to. But yeah, tonight's gonna be really, really fun. Blue Rose is a role-playing system by Green Ronin Publishing, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Green Ronin, and pretty recently released, 2017.
Why don't you show us the cover there, handsome boy?
Oh. Beautiful.
Whoa!
It's beautiful.
What are those pieces of paper sticking at the top?
If they come like that, it comes with sticky notes to tell you where different sections are, just like hand drawn on
pre-planned
really great
areas of study.
Nice feature. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and what I really like about this is it's a romantic fantasy, and that can be taken two ways. There is actually a romance system in this game, and they suggest there is a entire campaign arc that they talk about. Your group is like marriage, I guess.
Counselors?
Not counselors, like...
We play a bunch of...
A man walks into your office and he needs help.
Pretty much. People go from town to town and arrange marriages. Like, that's, like...
That's great. That's
pretty much one of the...
kind of awesome.
Right? It's kind of... Basically, all we have to do is role play... It's like Dogs in the Vineyard, right? Like, we just basically...
I was gonna say we should play Dogs in the Vineyard soon.
Just be super religious.
Well,
Woof,
I
woof.
was reading up on really good RPGs for 2 players, and Dogs in the Vineyard, people were saying, is like one of the best RPGs that you can play with a GM and 2 PCs. So I've been thinking about that.
Well,
Yeah, it is like a really dark
let's
one.
hold her to
Yeah.
that, everyone. Let's make sure she does that. I want to
Yes,
play.
Dogs in the Vineyard.
But yeah, so tell us a little bit about Blue Rose,
Blue
Rodeo.
Rodeo.
Other than the romance elements, so sort of maybe really briefly tell us what we're in for.
Well, I want all the world to know that Blue Rose is, romantic fantasy in the other sense. Like, instead of medieval fantasy, we've got the Romantic era, so the Age of Enlightenment and all that stuff. Nice art that actually looked good. And it really, really gives me the vibe of Final Fantasy.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, which is a game that I played a lot growing up. It's got some really cool features, and in terms of the one-shot aspect of it, there's so much lore to it. Like, there's like 200 pages of lore alone.
Whew.
So as a one-shot system, I'm just going to be introducing different aspects of the lore. And today we're going to be focusing on the Raidan, which is a race of animals that are sentient.
Yes, yes, yes!
That's right. So tonight's going to be a different game. I don't think we ever played a game where we're animals before, so get ready.
Robots.
We played robots. That's basically the same thing.
Nope.
Yeah.
In my world, it is.
I don't know about you guys, but I spent a lot of my childhood pretending to be an animal, so this is very exciting.
Trevor the wolf.
Nope.
Okay, I'll be White Fang. Justin, you be Moonshadow. Joe, you be Trevor.
You can be like Mudball the wolf.
You could be Mudpaw, the runt of the litter that nobody likes. Finally, before we jump into the game, which is just around the corner, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Patreon is something that we have recently subscribed to, the idea of, and it's something that we found really rewarding so far. No, but it's something that has already given us advantages to the things we want to do. It's given us sort of opportunities to investigate some additional podcast ideas and things of that nature. So,
And this specific system, am I correct?
absolutely. This system was bought with Patreon money. So this is exactly case in point why your money matters, because we can play new and diverse systems and I can get my chest waxed. I'm not going to do that. Let's move past that. I don't want
Why
that to come.
did you even mention that?
Let's not, because I'm
Stretch
scared.
goal.
No, that's what I knew you were going to say that. Let's not. Anyway, let's just remember to play nice. No, but please consider supporting us. The link is in the description of the YouTube video, just below the Discord chat. And again, make sure you're in the Discord chatting away. We got lots of people here tonight, so let's have fun. That's it for me. Justin, did you want to talk more about the system before jumping into the game, or do you want to do it sort of in-game?
All I'll say is it uses the same system as Dragon Age. I forgot to mention that. The Fantasy Age system. But other than that, no. Let's jump into it. Let's start the credits.
Fair enough. Well, without further ado, I forgot to put the credits on my desktop. I'm so
Well, I'll
sorry.
tell you a little bit more about the system in that case.
Shame.
It's so much work.
Joe
Done.
and I
No,
will
we're
wax
good.
our chest.
It's not hard.
Wax yours.
Mm-hmm.
Justin.
I wax my chest every week.
Well, ladies and gentlemen,
That's
without
why I
further
have
ado,
such a...
yeah, Blue Rose, the RPG.
I do. You, who is watching this right now, or is playing this right now, or is telling the story, I want you to close your eyes. Close your eyes. Yes, you can still hear my voice, right? Good. First things first. Let's be aware of the sounds around us. The sounds and the smells. Now that we can't see anything, we can focus more on them. Joe, what is the sound that you hear right now?
IRL or game?
In real life.
In real life, I hear the sound of traffic to my right. I hear the hum of a refrigerator to my left.
Mm-hmm. Good.
I hear my own breathing.
Wonderful. Harlan, what are some sounds that you hear?
I hear the air conditioning rattling. I hear the fan outside my window, and I hear my computer running.
Perfect. Now let's move deeper. Let's become aware of the thoughts going through our heads. And we have to be still and quiet and very aware, because these thoughts can move quickly. And sometimes they aren't very nice thoughts, but sometimes they are. You might be thinking thoughts of excitement or mystery or confusion as we do this new method of getting into a game. Listen to the thought just for a moment. Feel your heart beat. Mine's beating quickly right now because I'm performing. There's a thrill, there's an excitement, this emotion, and also some coffee. And also feel your breath. Actually, breathe in deep right now. A deep breath like that feels good. It's good to be aware of your breath. Now, let's move into the part of ourselves that connects all of these sensations, from the sounds and the sights that we see and hear, to our heartbeat, our emotions, our thoughts. The one thing that connects them all is the observer, the part of ourselves that is aware of everything that is happening to us. Awareness of our entire experience. This is your true identity, your essence, your soul. And now, let us leave this form behind and slip into the source where we came from. The source of all things, all creatures, all spirits and souls. Into the eternal dance. Let it whisk us away in its current as we are pulled through the tributary that leads to our forms here on Earth and into a medley of souls of different colors, of different vibrancies and rates and rhythms. Let us flow and dance amidst the other colors and souls that haven't found a form or do not wish to find one. We continue down, moving faster than the speed of light, faster than anything in the world of form, or the universe of form, can move. Along the sides of the stream, there are tributaries, just like the ones that we left. Billions upon billions of tributaries, even more, that lead into different dimensions, and different experiences, and different worlds. But we are going to move towards one tributary, towards a soul that inhabits an unlikely body, the body of an animal. This soul, as we leave the current of the eternal dance and slow into this small channel leading to this one form, is beautiful. It is a radiant soul, so pure that it draws us in by its warmth. and it radiates colors of every variety. Blue, green, red, yellow, orange, purple, white, gray. Let it pull you in and into a new experience. We're there, into this new form, the form of this animal. Feel your breath, short and shallow. You've been running. Your heart is beating quickly. The emotion is excitement. You can't wait. As we move into our thoughts, we can hear just whispers of what we have on our mind, this new form's mind. I can't wait. I'm so close, I can feel it. Oh, I can smell it. Asta's gonna be so excited when I bring it back to him. And now let's move higher still. Become aware of the smells and the sounds around us. They are the smells and sounds of the forest, but not the regular forest. We are in the deep woods. In fact, this is the farthest that this form has ever ventured into the deep woods, for our leader, the powerful unicorn Dridea, has told us not to venture this far. But for this particular purpose, we figure it's okay. We are a fox named Renarin. And as we stand in the forest, we can smell the object of our desire, the object that we can't wait to find, to bring back to our brother, Asta. It is a flower called Heart Song. And now open your eyes. It is dark around. The bright sun can barely pierce the thick canopy of this part of the woods, but we can still see. Our fox eyes are still keen, and as we round the wide trunk of a giant oak, we come across a new sight. Some sort of ruins. Bits of stone and rubble have fallen to the ground where various columns stand and have crumbled away. One structure still stands. It is ovular and held up with vines and moss covering the sides, but we don't pay too much attention to it, because there, at its base, grows a single, solitary heart song flower. It is beautiful, only up to your head in height, and its petals radiate a beautiful pink glow, very subtle, but glowing nonetheless. Your heart speeds up even faster as you trot towards it to pluck it out with your mouth, and you stop. Suddenly, as you pick up another scent. These aren't the earthy scents of the forest, this is something new. Like fire, sulfur, and you quickly glance around to see what the source of this is, but you don't see any flames, nor any smoke billows. And then you hear a strange sound, almost as if the air is ripping right beside you. You hop back away from the flower, startled, as you look towards this ovular structure that seems to be glimmering and darkening, and before you know it, the portal that you could once see through is now filled with a dark, black substance, like a pond of muck. It ripples and oozes at the side as black smoke billows from the bottom, and it lets out an eerie hum. You know what it is. You've heard of this structure before, but you never thought that in a million years you would ever see one. This is a shadow gate. You want to run. You want to go back to the glen where you came from, where your home, where your family is, to tell Dridea the unicorn about what has happened. But your body won't move, even though your thoughts are trying to get you to. You watch as something emerges from this shadow gate. A foot, and then a leg, and then an arm that is mottled gray with bits of black gunk and sharp claws. And then an entire creature emerges, standing on its hind legs. Its face is bare, its head without fur, and its teeth sharp, like a wolf's. You continue to watch in horror as another one of these creatures emerges, sniffing the air, and another one, and another. You wish that you could move. And then the first creature that emerged snaps its head towards you and snarls. It lets out a loud screech that rips your ears. And finally, you decide to run. You run, but as you do, you can feel the shadow billowing around you. You hadn't noticed it creeping towards you like tendrils, and it gets closer and closer, and you feel it go into your lungs, and you cough as you continue to run, your paws jumping over the roots and leaves of the ground and trying to get away from the smoke, and you only inhale a bit of it before you're able to get away, but you cough as it burns your lungs, and you feel an overwhelming sadness and anger and darkness completely consume you. But something lightens inside you. It begins to fight this darkness as you run and run towards the glen to warn the others of what is coming. Amity Glen is a beautiful part of the Pavan Weald. Not too far into it that the trees cover everything and make the sun so that it cannot reach the floor, but not too shallow into the woods that it is too close to human villages. The glen is inhabited by a special race of animals, not any regular animal. These are called the Raidan, and they are led by a unicorn named Dridea, a powerful adept who knows the ways of arcana, and she lives with these creatures. And today she paces back and forth as she prepares for the evening's feast. She passes by Remus the rabbit, who counts radishes for the supper, and she smiles at the bashful rabbit, who turns away and covers his face. She turns and sees emerging from his den Boris the badger, who's just waking from his afternoon nap, lets out a loud yawn and shambles over to help Remus the rabbit. Dridea chuckles to herself as she sees this. Then she turns and her heart warms as she sees Ursula, the great bear, rolling in the dirt, playing with her newfound cubs, laughing. Her husband, Strickland, stands nearby and watches, smiling himself, even bigger than Ursula the bear. Then Dridea looks up, and she sees Ciri the hawk, as she lands and alights on a branch above. The hawk nods to her. As Dridea continues on, past some vines that are hanging from a branch, and into a clearing. And there are two more Raidan that are in this clearing. A fox named Asta, and a wolf named Haru. What are the two of you doing?
Asta is sort of hopping from stone to stone in the field that we're in the clearing that we're in, sort of excitedly, as Haru's sort of in the middle. He's sort of hopping from stone to stone, sort of looking for attention. And you can't quite make out what he's saying. He's sort of just being like, "Come on, Haru, Haru, come on, come on."
Haru sits in the center of this circle of stones in the middle of this clearing in the woods, Amity Glen. And Haru is trying his best to ignore this youngster, licking part of his fur that needs a little bit of attention, a little bit of grooming, and is just not looking at Asta.
You see Dridea emerge from the main part of the glen, and she stops before you and says, Haru, Asta, are you both ready for the supper this evening? The celebrations?
Oh, yeah.
Hello, Dridia. Asta, please.
Mm.
Yes, we are. Thank you.
It seems Asta's quite keen.
Are they going to have mice this time? They had mice a few times ago, and it was so fantastic. Do you remember, Haru, when they had mice?
Yes, were very delicious.
Yes. Unfortunately, the council has spoken and decided that because, you know, Timus, our newest member of the Raiden.
And Haru does like a full grimace, all teeth, like, oh, yes. It's a mouse. I see.
We thought that maybe we would stay away from mice and all meat this time. You enjoy sprouts and radishes and carrots, don't you, Haru? No. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Hello?
no.
Oh no, am I gone?
No, I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Oh. You enjoy... Oh. Well, no, of course you don't. Well, if you need to go hunting beforehand, I do not blame you, but there will be a stew that that Yopa is making, and maybe you will be able to take part in some of that.
Dridia, you are a wise leader, but surely you must understand the predispositions us meat eaters prefer. We will be in attendance tonight, I assure you.
Oh, yeah, Dridia. Us, for sure, for sure. And then Asta sort of hops down off one of the stones and stands like right next to Haru, sort of like in his shadow, or her shadow. It's Haru.
It's a boy.
Okay, in his shadow, and sort of comes around and said, yeah, I mean, I like the mice a lot, but it's okay. I don't mind. Timus is really nice. We had a lot of fun playing in the underbrush before.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear you're getting along. And what of Renarin? Have you seen him today? Was he out hunting this morning?
He said he was going to go out and bring me back something, but no, you know him. He's going to get lost for a long time. Actually, where is he? And Asta sort of shoots his head over Haru, who's sort of crouched and sort of starts looking around. He should be back by now.
Dridia! Dridia! The radishes are ready! You hear coming from the main part of the glen. Ah, well, hopefully he returns soon. We wouldn't want him to miss his meal.
Oh, he'd never miss a meal.
Oh, good. Prepare yourselves, and we will see you soon for the meal. So she
Thanks,
turns
Dridia.
around and goes back to the glen. Now, Asta, you are... you've been practicing a little bit of healing magic with some of the clan elders. How's that going?
Well, I mean, it's pretty tough, and I say this to Haru, even though he didn't ask, because Asta just loves sharing all that he's learning with Haru constantly. Haru sighed a little bit.
I hate young one.
Well, I just wanted to heal it. Did I draw blood?
No, you just pinched me with your tiny teeth. Please.
Let me find something. And he stands up on a rock and sort of jumps off into like a high grass area. Ha! And then lifts his hands sort of expectantly, but there's like nothing there. And he starts jumping in different areas, hoping to catch something. Just like constantly.
So cute.
And eventually he kind of lands on something, and like a little grasshopper sort of springs between his little paws, and it falls out. He's like, oh. You know, I don't need something hurt to show you. Yeah, and he climbs up on a rock and sort of presents himself to Haru. Did you want me to do some healing magic? Is that why?
No, it's up to you. I mean, the Raiden, I'll just say for everyone, communicate psychically. You have this ability for psychic arcana. So your powers kind of tap into that a little bit more, and you've developed some other forms of magic as well.
Well,
we don't have to see it now.
Yeah, and Renarin, sorry. My brother also has sort of a similar thing. So he and I often talk very quiet, or not at all, rather. We sort of communicate via our minds and sort of share feelings and things like that in a very simple sense, which is why Asta is such a talkative, excitable fellow, because so much of his downtime with his brother and the other adepts is purely just sort of...
Are you from the same litter?
Yeah.
Oh, Renarin?
Yeah.
Yeah, you are from the same litter. So you're twins.
We're twins, yeah. We're twin brothers.
Or, yeah, cute.
Well, he's not as cute as me, though.
No.
I have the black tips in my ears. You know Renarin.
Yes, he's very energetic young fox, much as yourself. Haru lifts his nose.
And Asta follows suit.
On the air.
Yeah, I smell it too.
And go ahead and give me a roll.
Okay. That's exciting. So I've chosen... where's my dice roller? I've chosen yellow to be my drama dice. Ah, cool. So I only rolled a 4.
Okay.
But I also... No, hold on. So 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 for smelling.
Okay, perfect. So it's not that hard to smell. You do manage to. It's a pretty easy roll. And you can smell that the stew that Yopa is cooking smells like it's about ready. And you smell a little bit of meat coming from that direction.
What do we smell?
It's Yopa who's making the stew?
Yopa, yes.
So interesting. So Haru sniffs the air and then turns really quickly to Asta.
And Asta's sort of mimicking the smells without understanding them and trying to play along, be like, yeah, I smell it too. What do we smell?
There's meat, cub.
We love meat.
And Haru gets up, sort of does a stretch, and then walks out of the clearing without looking back to make sure that Asta's behind him. He knows that Asta will be along, and
Asta's sort of like at the hind legs of Haru, like really sort of eager to sort of try to match his pace, but because your stride is just so long, he can't keep up.
So cute. How old are you? Are you like a couple of years old?
Yeah, I mean, he'd probably be like akin to like a 15, maybe 10 to 15-year-old. I don't know. I'm still figuring that out as I role play.
Yeah.
Yeah. He might be more mature in certain ways.
Well, they do so quickly as a fox, so like by the end of the stream you'll be like 20.
Totally.
Yeah.
But the thing with Asta is he's also he's an omnivore, obviously, like all foxes, but he actually doesn't enjoy eating meat. He much prefers eating berries and vegetables and seeds. But because Haru is a meat eater, he's like, yeah, that's why he like put forth the meat mice thing.
Nice.
Despite loving Timus.
Haru stalks over towards the cook pot where Yopa the ape is tending things.
Yeah, and it's kind of a funny scene. Yopa is standing over 2 wooden, like carved pots of bubbling liquid, and you see. You wonder how they're being heated up. Actually, no, you know how they're heated up. Here in the glen, instead of obviously heating it up with fire, you don't start any fires here in the woods, but there is an adept, one of the elders that teaches young Asta, is able to shape and manipulate heat. So this adept it's actually Sira, the hawk.
Nice.
Who is sitting up atop the branch, and every now and then she flaps her wings and the cauldrons bubble a little bit more. And every now and then they bubble just a little bit, and Yopa jumps back and goes, oh.
And Asta is like sort of off camera tugging, and he's tugging this sort of small log because the pot is too high, and Haru can just sort of look down into it, and he's like tugging it ferociously towards the pot, and when it's close enough he hops on to sort of get beside Haru and look into the pot where they're looking. He's like, yeah, that's hot.
Haru points his nose towards the steam of the broth and takes a good sniff, and then takes a couple of steps over towards where Yopa is, and then takes a couple of sniffs at Yopa and starts wagging his tail real slow, and then tries to use psychic contact again. It's been many times that Haru has tried to make contact with Yopa, saying to him, "This smells delicious," and waits patiently. Actually ends up taking a seat beside the fire and stops smelling Yopa and just kind of regards the fire for a little while, waiting.
And Yopa kind of waddles over to you, his long arms. Yopa is not a Raiden yet. He has not awakened, but because of his 5 fingers, he's very, very helpful around the glen, and it's just a matter of time before he does awaken. And he puts down his big ladle, and he waddles over to you and gives you a big hug. Wraps his arms around you and pats your head.
And Asta, like, excitedly and nervously wants to get in somehow. He, like, tucks in between them as they're hugging above him.
Haru does the thing where, like, well, they don't want to be hugged, like, licks the lips.
Yeah.
My son does that
like
a
lot. Yawn and, like, head pointed away.
And Asta's, like, on his hinds trying to get into the hug, being like, just sticking his nose up to wedge between.
And Yopa turns around and kind of gives Asta like a little condescending pat, like with his.
And it like swats him towards the ground. It's so heavy.
Yeah.
But he's just like so excited for it.
And he turns around and he goes to a bush, and he pulls out, and you can smell the meat now, as he pulls out 2 bodies of squirrels, and he looks up at Sira, who is looking elsewhere, and begins to bring it over to you and places it down by your feet and goes.
Haru kind of gently picks the squirrels up in his jaws and nods a little bit and wags his tail kind of in an exaggerated way.
And Asta tries helping by picking up the other end of like the squirrel too, and then tail just comes off and he just holds the tail in his mouth.
And we kind of make our way to a clearing away from the herbivores so that we don't upset anyone.
Yeah. Okay, so you have your pre-meal meal, and
when we get there, Asta's like, there's so much meat on this tail, I couldn't eat another bite. You can have the main squirrels, Haru.
And one's already gone. Haru's like,
yeah, just pretty much eats it whole.
And he just sort of like pretends to eat the thing and then sort of tosses it aside. Meat.
So the Raiden gather, finally, for this very momentous occasion. This is Eversong. It happens once a year, and it's basically a day that signifies the end of the year for the Glen. And you celebrate just how the year went. And sometimes it was a good year, and sometimes it was a bad year. But either way, you commemorate the year with a feast. And as you're eating, you're chatting amongst the other animals and eating your berries that are Haru's, just content with what she's eating.
Observing.
Sorry. Duridia steps up upon a platform, a kind of a natural platform of a rock and a log, and so that she's above everyone. And she says, "Friends, family, citizens of Amity Glen, I thank you for being here today. Today is a very momentous day as we celebrate Eversong." And the animals let out different hoots and hollers and cries and barks. before Dridia nods her head for quiet. And she says, "It's been a marvelous year. We've had new additions," she says, as she nods over to Ursula and Strickland, the two great bears with their cubs. "And we've had a bountiful harvest," she says, as she nods down towards Remus the rabbit, who bashfully covers his face again. "And save for a few injuries," she says, as she looks towards you, Haru, "it has been not too much of a challenge. I love you all dearly, and you are all each like sons, daughters, brothers, sisters, and mothers, fathers to me."
We love you too, Dridia.
And the animals turn towards Asta and laugh.
And he's like wagging his tail, like mimicking Haru, even though foxes
like
don't
a
typically.
big bushy fox tail.
They don't wag their tails, but he's like taught himself to sort of emulate you.
So cute.
And so Dridia's face, as everything kind of calms down, Dridia, her face kind of takes on a darkened look, and her voice sours a bit as she says, "While it has been a good year, I have troubling news. The eternal plane, which I have seen into, it's casting shadows on our realm, which means that this coming year may not be so successful as our last. But we are strong, we work together, and anything will be accomplished. So, have a drink, enjoy your food, and something bursts from the brush. Everyone turns and gasps as they see Renarin, his fur matted and down from sweat and blood. You can see he's nicked himself on various as he's been running through the forest, and he's panting heavily, and he can hardly even speak. What's that? They're coming. And the other animals immediately are concerned. Asta, what's your reaction?
I run over to him right away, and sort of like quickly start like moving around him and like looking at his wounds. Is he hurt? Sorry.
Yes, he looks like he's hurt. It looks like the injuries of running through the forest and tripping and falling and scratching yourself.
And I'm
Haru is like swiftly there, right behind Asta, who's quicker than him, though Haru is loath to admit it. "Child, what has happened to you?"
And Dridia comes over, and
Asta's like furiously sniffing him like all over, like. Ren.
And you do have an ability. You have a visionary ability that allows you to, with your psychic contact ability, you'll be able to see a memory of Renarin. But Dridia walks over and she looks concerned, and she says, "Renarin, are you all right? Speak to us, Renarin. Breathe deeply." And you sense warmth around Renarin as it seems Dridia is casting some sort of spell on him, and his breathing slows a little bit. And he looks up and sees you, Asta. His eyes are wide, and he begins to cry, and he says, "They're coming.
Right.
I was in the deep woods. I was looking for a heart song for you, Asta. And
Ren.
There was a shadow gate, and it activated, and and he lurches forward and vomits on the ground. But as he does so, it is black ichor goo that bursts out of his mouth and lands on the ground in front of him and sizzles, letting a small stream of smoke rise.
And Asta takes like a half step back from it. Ren!
He's been tainted, Sierra says from atop a branch. He's been touched by shadow. There's nothing we can do for him.
What do you mean there's nothing we can do for him? Of course we can. We can help him. Come on, Ren. And Asta starts moving towards him.
Haru turns. Judea.
Where was this shadow gate? Speak, Renarin. And Renarin seems to be completely out of it. He's fallen down on the ground, and he's convulsing.
And Asta runs over to him and sort of puts his paws on him and says, "No, don't ask him anymore. Let me." And he puts his paw on his head, and I'll do that psychic vision.
Perfect. Sounds good. So roll a 3d6.
Yep.
And you're trying to beat a 10.
Perfect.
And you're going to get your intelligence plus the skill to it. And you're also, because Renarin is so close, this is a cool feature in Blue Rose. There's actually relationship bonds that, because you have a close relationship, he's your brother, you're going to get a +3 on this roll.
Nice. Well, I ended up getting an 11. Okay. No doubles, so no anything like that. So that should be well above +++.
Perfect. So, everything kind of goes dark as you slip into the memories of Renarin. And you see just quick snippets of moments, but it's enough to make your blood run cold, because you see these creatures that stand on their hind legs as they step out of Shadowgate. And you see, from the perspective of Renarin running, him look back and see this billowing shadow creeping forward as these creatures sprint towards him, jumping off of thick trunks of trees and swinging off of branches. But Renarin is faster, and eventually he gets away. And then you see the image of all of you.
And Asta sort of recoils his paw and sort of looks up with wide eyes at Judea and then at Haru, and sort of scared looks back down at his brother and sort of pets him softly and says, I saw where the shadow gate is. There are things, big gray creatures that coming out of it.
Dark fiends, Judea says. And the crowd gasps. And Sierra says, we must flee. We must run to the other glens. Warn them. Judea says, no. There won't be enough time. Ursula, you, Boris, and Remus, take the children. You will go east towards the East Glen. Find Harana there. She will look after you. All right? Take them. Go, now. And Ursula, the great bear, gathers her children, and Strickland and her exchange a look as Strickland, who's a great big bear with a scar across his face, they nuzzle each other as Ursula turns with the badger, the rabbit, and the young animals of this glen, and they turn and move into the forest, running east. Sierra, you go north to the mountains. Contact the Griffins. Let them know what has happened. And Sierra takes off without a moment's notice.
And as people are moving out of the glen, Asta's sort of looking around like panicked, looking back down at his brother, and he's like, "Oh, hold on, we can save him. We have to help him first."
We will help him, young one. And there are other wolves here, other Raiden wolves, Haru, and I get the impression that you haven't really gotten along with these other wolves.
Yeah, Haru is kind of standoffish, knows a lot about the woods, about tracking, has spent a lot of time by himself. So it's not that they've ever really had any pointed disagreements, but Haru prefers to sort of keep to himself. And the only really reason that Asta has formed such a strong relationship with Haru is by virtue of the fact that Asta is persistent.
Perfect. So there are a few other wolves pad up beside Strickland, and Judea says, you three, Strickland, and myself, we will stay here and try to hold them off. Give them as much time as they can to get to the Eastern Glen. You, Asta, and Yopa, and you, Haru. I want you to take Renarin. He's very important, and not just because he's your brother, Asta. Renarin is a very special being. And you must find the blue rose. For that's the only way his soul can be saved from the shadow that now inhabits his body.
Of course, we can find it. Where is it? Where's the blue rose?
You must travel south. But that's all I can tell you. I do not know the rest. I just have visions of your destiny.
Who can help us? I mean, that's not enough. Haru, that's not enough. We can't find a blue rose south. There's so much south.
They're coming, Dradia. One of the other wolves says. I can smell them. They're almost here.
No, Dradia, you have to help us.
You must go now. You will find your way, Asta. Haru, guide him.
Yes.
And Yopa
Haru, we don't
take a piece of cloth that he has, and he wraps the body of Renarin, who's now passed out, over his shoulder, kind of in a sling, and he grabs a bag of various herbs and things and throws it over his other shoulder, and he stands beside Haru.
No, Dradia, you can't. You have to help us. You're the leader. We don't. And Asta's sort of like taking half steps towards.
Now. She told us what we have to do. You follow her instructions to the letter, and we can still save your brother.
But we don't. No,
I can see them. They're close.
Come
Strickland,
now.
Let's go. And Strickland charges into the forest. Run!
Asta, Yopa, with me.
And Asta sort of is turning towards Haru and turning towards Strickland and Dradia and turning back towards Haru and sort of has a fight within himself and then sort of turns towards his brother and the others.
Yopa.
Haru. Yeah. And follows along, but looking over his shoulder, watching Strickland as well as they sort of run through the woods.
And it's not very long before your view is completely obscured. You're running as fast as you can. Branches and trunks of trees whiz by as you run.
And tears are streaming down Asta's face as he's thinking of Strickland and Dradia and how, even though he's with Haru and Yopa, he feels abandoned. Their leader sort of left, and he's running as he's crying, but trying to hide it from Haru at the same time.
And you can hear the clash of battle. Renarin is with you. So Yopa, he created that sling, so he got Renarin. Yeah, exactly.
Baby Bjorn? Bjorn, are you baby?
Bjorn. And you guys can hear roars and the sounds of the snarling other wolves and the neighs of Dradia as they fight to buy you time.
And again, looking back with tears in his eyes and continue forward, like running between Yopa and Haru. Even though he's faster at a full, but at a sort of a trot, he's slower. So he kind of has to jet up every once in a while and then slow, and then jet a little more and then slow, and trying to hide his face from Haru.
Perfect. Haru, roll a perception check.
What kind?
Actually, both of you guys can do it. Any type of perception.
I have smelling and tracking focus.
Do smelling.
Okay.
I have psychic. Does that work? Oh shit.
Yes, yes it does. Psychic contact.
I'm gonna re-roll all that because I had doubles up. I have 12.
I also rolled a 12.
Sorry, 12 plus 3, which is 15, and then plus 2 when you're proficient, right?
Oh, sorry.
Yes, plus 2 when you're proficient.
So, yeah. 17.
So, Asta, you whip your head to the side as you sense something. It almost feels like your head becomes foggy and cloudy, and you can sense where it's coming from. And you turn your head in that direction. Haru, you can smell it. This foul smell of rot and death as you charge through the forest.
What is that?
And you turn your head in the direction of it too. And you're running at like breakneck speeds, as fast as you guys can. Yopa sometimes swinging off of low-hanging branches, and you see it. Just for a brief instant, a glimpse through the trees, something running towards you, fast. Running kind of on all fours, this creature with mottled gray skin.
Haru's hackles rise and he starts growling as he's like loping forward.
And Asta sort of mimics it, but is so frightened and tearful. He sort of tries to do it, but he's like, ah, and continues running.
Is this an enemy? Have I recognized this? Does it smell right?
It does not smell right. It smells like a rotting corpse.
I'm going to do a quick...
another and another.
Okay, I'm going to do a quick perception of the woods ahead of us to see if there's anything coming up, like a cliff or something, you know what I mean? So, perfect, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9.
Any doubles?
No.
No, okay. So you're moving too fast to really know if there's anything that could help you out.
Okay.
You just get the impression that you need to run, and you can hear Yopa next to you huffing and puffing and grunting as he tries to keep up with the two of you.
Okay.
Are they like flanking us on either side? Are they catching up?
No, not on either side. They're coming from the west, and they're kind of trying to head you off a little bit. Okay. Kind of moving at an angle.
So Asta, being quicker at breakneck, sort of runs up between the two, Yopa and Haru, and starts sort of leading a bit aside and sort of turning a bit of a corner up ahead rather than going straight, which is what they were doing, seeing that they're sort of being flanked on one of the sides. Of the two sides, is there one maybe that the person's not catching up as fast, or?
Oh no, that's only on the one side.
Oh, okay, perfect. So I sort of naturally take the lead and start turning us in one direction, away from where the other person was coming from.
Okay, I want you guys to do another roll. You're going to do I think it's dexterity running.
Parkour?
Parkour.
Just jumping between trees. Parkour.
Yeah.
Jump over a fallen log.
No, it's not in there. Endurance would be running, I think. So you could do like a strength, like jumping, or like do any roll that you think will help you get through this forest. Let's say that.
That's fun.
Yeah. So, and then you'll describe how you're going to do it.
Okay. I have an idea. So what I was thinking is maybe Asta will head up first, and rather than like lead, he'll see like a dead tree about ready to fall over. Right. And with sort of his agility, what he'll do is just jump up and sort of push off it, trying to continue on, to maybe cause the tree to fall over and cause maybe distraction, or maybe put something in their way. You know, sort of a bit of an obstacle that they might have to get over.
Perfect.
So should I just roll dexterity for that?
Yep.
Okay.
Go for dexterity. If you've got a focus, then you can use that. But
I do not. So that is 8, 9, 10, 11.
11. Okay, so we'll say that you're able to get something small that will...
Perfect. Yeah, and again, it's no real... It's just... So Asta zips up between the two, nervously trying to sort of lead them off the path, but realizes that he's just too small and not really capable. So he sees sort of a dead, thin birch tree, and jumping off a log sort of pushes his hind legs off of it to continue on sort of the course that they were doing, and it causes the birch tree to fall over, which is relatively thin, but there's sort of a loud crash and hopefully a bit of a distraction as they continue on, but it causes him to sort of fall back in his place behind Yopa and Haru.
Yeah, perfect. And Haru, what are you going to do?
Haru is going to use his stamina focus, which is just basically fucking running until you can't run anymore. So Haru might not necessarily be able to, like, bring down trees in their way or necessarily be faster than them sprinting, but Haru is able to dodge any attacks that they try to make and will just fucking run them out of town. Like, we'll go for hours.
Perfect.
So I'm gonna make that roll right now, and we'll see if that is actually the truth. 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 14.
14. That's fantastic. What I will do is have the others roll endurance as well. And we'll see. You'll basically make it as far as the lowest roll. Okay. So Yopa got a 12, so that's pretty good too. So it doesn't make it quite as far as you do, but like he starts to get winded and wheezing after like an hour of running. Into Asta? You go ahead and roll.
I had. You want me to roll again? Okay.
Yeah, for endurance.
Totally. So, hey, and I got triples.
Nice.
Wow.
So
nice.
I have
What?
3 stunt points. So that's 9, and then dexterity 10, 11, 12, 13.
Okay.
But I have 3 stunt points. So it's not combat. So I can't. I should. Well, I guess it is combat, isn't it?
We didn't roll initiative.
No, not so much. No, it would be more of like a.
We have exploration, role-playing,
Exploration.
combat, or standard.
Do you want to use those, Justin?
No, I'm just gonna say that with your stunt points, you're able to create an advantage, like in your running. So maybe you get like a second wind, or like however you want to explain it.
Whoa.
That like
Sorry.
you get a boost or something.
Okay. What about something like taunt in sort of a more narrative sense, because it's not combat necessarily.
Okay,
or how
sure.
about this? Stay aware. You know, mindful of everything that's happening around you.
Perfect.
Does that seem fair?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
So you.
Well, I have 3 points, so I could do both because I have taunt, and I could do both if I wanted to. But
Sounds
it's up
good.
to you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool.
So, go ahead. How do you want to explain?
So I'm going to insult one of the opponents. I'm going to sort of. I mean,
you can connect with them psychically.
That's
perfect.
interesting, yeah.
So I'm going to taunt them like that. I'm going to say,
yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna, basically, Asta will be like, can't catch us even if you tried, you smelly oafs. And then he's gonna stay aware, which basically I make a target number 11 perception test with a focus of my choice, and if I succeed, you can tell me and make me aware of a battlefield situation that's escaped my notice, and give me +1 for the next time I make a test.
Okay, perfect. So keep the +1.
Okay.
I'm going to move things along. You guys run. You run and you run, and it seems that the taunt actually works. After a while, you look back, and it doesn't look like you are being chased. Now, of course, you don't know whether or not it was the taunt, or if it was your running, or if
it was the taunt.
Want to run that far? Yeah, Asta probably.
I did it, Haru. I did it.
Continue to run, and you spend a night in the forest. And let's describe that. How long do you guys run for?
Hours.
Yeah.
Hours.
I try to keep up. Haru can do it
knows
forever.
That Dradia told us that it has to be. We're looking south, and Haru knows the landscape basically, and knows that it doesn't really start changing until you're hours south. And with the spur of an enemy at his back, he just stretches his legs and goes. And it's like 5 hours before Haru it starts to want a drink of water.
Yeah.
And Asta's like trying to push through like so hard, and like kind of being like throughout this time being like, Haru, I'm not tired. Are you? I don't think we should stop. But Yopa's looking a bit tired. Yeah. Oh, I'm fine. And he like just like so fucking tired. His like muscles are burning. His little legs are so tired, but he can't admit to Haru that he's upset. But the minute Haru starts slowing down a bit after like 5 hours, Asta
not
takes,
even stopping, but just like slowing from a run to a trot to a walk slowly. Like the sun is starting to go down. The like carpet of needles that we know typically is like layering the ground has changed. The moss on the rocks that we're familiar with has changed. The air smells different here.
Right.
We start to walk slower.
And the minute that happens, Asta sort of skips up ahead between them and shakes his head, and it's kind of like, I can't believe Dradia left us like that. She just turned. And she knows that the blue rose is the only way to help my brother, and she knows where it is, and she didn't come with us, Haru. Why?
No, Pop, no. Shakes his head and then kind of gets into it and does like an all body shake as he's walking, and then kind of looks at Asta. No. She gave us time.
What do you mean she gave us time? What do you mean?
Yopa pads up beside you guys as you talk. And then he like really carefully lowers Renarin down to the ground, and then collapses backwards, his arms extended. And then he reaches into the bag and he pulls out like a gut, like a water gut that's been used from part of an animal, and he begins to down back some water, and he pushes himself up and begins to hold it out for you guys to lap up.
And we do. But, well, I guess Asta is still sort of stunned, and he's kind of like, what do you mean she gave us time? She just ran off. She just ran off with Strickland. She didn't give us time.
Hers, like, noisily lapping from the water skin, and then there's, like, water dripping down his fur of his chin and chest, and he turns to Asta. You remember those creatures that were following us? Why we ran so hard so long, Asta?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
There were more, many more.
So what are you saying? That Judea and Strickland ran another way? Why wouldn't they just run and follow us?
No, they fought for us to keep us safe.
What do you mean they?
That is why we cannot rest here for long.
What do you mean they fought? What do you mean they fought for us?
You know, Cub.
And Asta sort of turns around like confused, you know, coming from such a peaceful society with so little, you know, like strife and so little combat. You know, the idea of like staying behind to help and like fight is like such a foreign concept to him. And he sort of turns around a second and sort of looks out over the trees. And I want to ask, I have an Arcana ability that's scrying.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I want to, and it's allowing me to remotely observe someone that I know who's not with me. And I want to, for a second, do that for Dradea. So what Asta does is he's sort of confused, not grasping this concept of what happened to Dradea. In his mind, she turned tail and ran a different direction, unable to help them. And being presented this is sort of, he's fighting his own mind. So I'm going to roll for that. Is that perception, I guess?
No, so that's going to be a spell roll. So that's intelligence.
Oh.
And you're going to be rolling intelligence +2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it'll be intelligence +4 for me because I already have 2. And that is 12 +4, so 16.
Okay, yeah. So you beat the target number. It's naturally a 12, but because of your relationship with Dradea, she's kind of like a mother to you. It's supposed to actually go up higher if you don't know them, but it just stays at a 12 because you're at a 2. So you close your eyes.
He sits on the rock, he sits on the rock quietly and sort of like shakes his head and just like zones into this moment.
You feel Yopa sit next to you and kind of pet you as you're doing it. And you haven't used this ability too often, just on Sira, the hawk. And after a while, you see a very foggy image. And eventually, it becomes clearer and clearer. And you see Dradea as like a kind of a third-person view. And she's looking down at bodies. There's a number of bodies around her. 2 wolves. But the rest of the bodies are all these creatures. There must be 10 of them. And her horn is a gory mess covered in black ichor. And
is she hurt at all?
She looks like she's had one bite taken out of her leg, but she looks like she's standing strong. And she turns and you see Strickland walk up, and he looks much worse. There's one more wolf as well next to him who's licking a wound. But Strickland has another gash right across his face, and it looks like maybe one of his eyes was taken out in the attack. And he pants and looks around, and then you hear another screeching sound, and Dradea's head whips to the forest, and you're bounced back.
And as I'm bounced back, I realize there are like tears down my face, and I've been crying. And he sort of wipes them away with a paw. And he takes a second and turns around to Haru, who's just finished drinking, and he sort of says, "They stayed and they fought all those things so that we could escape."
Yes, Cub. We have to find these flowers for them. And Haru, like, drags the water skin over to where Renarin is lying in a bundle of cloth, and sniffs him to see if he's still alive.
He is. He is.
And then kind of pulls at the bottom of the water skin to upend it towards his mouth a little bit.
And he reacts. You see his mouth open just a sliver, and he begins to slowly try to lap up the water, quite possibly still just on the brink of consciousness. But he only takes a couple laps before his body relaxes again, and his shallow breathing continues.
Mm-hmm.
And so you stay here in this particular spot of the forest that's not special at all. It isn't a glen. There's no pots or other animals. You feel particularly alone, as this is likely, especially for you, Asta, the farthest you've been away from home. But the night passes, and as you sleep, Asta, a dream comes to you. You see an elk. It has majestic antlers, and it grazes in the moonlight. And it lifts its head and sniffs before continuing to graze, with the does around him. You've never seen this elk before, but somehow, when you wake up in the morning, you feel like that wasn't just a dream, that was more similar to your experience of viewing Dredea.
Haru, are you awake?
Mm.
And he kind of walks over and starts tugging your ear. Haru, are you awake?
Mm. What? What is it? What is it?
I had a dream last night.
Yes, well, Cub, it's been a difficult day.
No. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like all the other dreams I tell you about. It felt different. Last night, before you gave me that water, I tried to look at Dredea to understand what happened, and they were so hurt. They were fighting. But I had a dream last night about an elk, and it felt the same. It felt like I was watching it from a third party, from like the sky almost. What do you think that means?
I don't know. I am not a wise elder. I know few things well.
Well,
an elk.
Do you?
I know no elks.
Do you smell any elk in the air? Your nose is so. I mean, I could smell it, but your nose is pretty good too.
Do I smell any elk?
Nope, no elk.
No.
You don't really smell any animals around.
Young one, we are far from home, and there are no elk.
And you're interrupted by Yopa, who has the sling up and has the bag of supplies. And he gestures to move forward. And we're going to go into montage. Montage mode.
Montage.
Yeah, so you travel, your pace has slowed down quite a bit. And the first day is uneventful, and nighttime. Describe something that happens. It could be daytime or nighttime, and let's start with Asta. What's something that happens on the next day of travel?
On the next day in the afternoon, two things happen. Not to be greedy, but I want to address how upset Asta is about Ren, and there is a point where he wants Yopa to stop so that he can check on his brother. And I assume a healing roll wouldn't really benefit him that much, would it? Just to save time.
It might, yeah, but like you can say that you like do a healing
Okay, I would do a healing because it was something I would have done last night. But so that's first, and then later in the afternoon, when he's checked on Ren and he realizes what they're doing and all this kind of stuff. There's a sort of a point where they're sort of trotting along and they turn the corner and Asta's run up ahead and he's sort of like catching bugs like he did in the glen that morning, like under a big rotten log. He's like crawling through it and he like jumps on top and he like opens his hands, keep hoping to catch a log, and he keeps doing it but he can't seem to catch one until Haru pops up and he sort of jumps in front and he opens it again and he says, "I can't catch them, Haru. They're too fast. These things are impossible to catch." And he tries to catch another one.
Here, watch me. And Haru is like, I think recognizes how upset Asta is and is kind of humoring the child. And so Haru sort of sniffs the air and finds a likely grasshopper and sort of gets real low to the ground and ears go back and starts like creeping forward, army crawl towards this grasshopper. And Asta's like, what are you like standing beside
Asta's
him?
like sitting on the log with his hands between his legs, like very like fox pup sitting, just like mouth agape watching.
Haru's tail is down. He's like become an arrow of gray-black fur in this undergrowth, and he's like slowly crawling towards this grasshopper and like gives a backward look at Asta and then springs at this grasshopper and it launches itself into the air, and Haru leaps into the air after the grasshopper and snaps his jaws, and the grasshopper actually like flits directly out of his mouth to safety, and Haru kind of like lands back in a heap and grasshoppers fly everywhere.
A bunch of them.
And he sort of looks back at Asta and he's
Who's
like,
still sitting like slack jaw.
"You get the idea."
Wow,
Right.
Haru,
That
wow! And he runs to the edge of the log and like jumps onto you and like tackles you. And, like,
We have like a little rolling,
yeah,
like
rolling.
tussle.
Yeah.
Super cute. Grasshoppers flying everywhere.
Perfect. And that night, Asta, you have another dream as you lie in a little clearing that you guys found near a brook. And you see what looks to be a precious stone almost being held up by this strange device. It's the weirdest dream you've ever had. And there looks to be a white surface that has, like metal tree trunks sticking out from the bottom. And you're not quite sure what this is, but something lies on it. And it looks kind of like, it looks a bit like Yopa, except all of the pieces are made from metal. And you know what metal is. You've heard of metal before and you've seen it from someone had brought in some parts from the ruins. But yeah, you've never seen anything like this. And then you wake up. Day number 3. Joe, why don't you say something that happens on day number 3?
I think Haru gets a little bit wounded.
Okay.
So we are traveling south still, and it's mid-morning. And Haru, who's been scouting ahead a little bit of Yopa and Asta, he comes to the precipice of a gully. There are a lot of trees lining the edge of this gully, but the embankment is very steep, and Haru is a little bit tentative about how to move forward. And so he stopped and just kind of observing the landscape. And as he stopped, Asta and Yopa come up on him, meet him, and I feel like Yopa or Asta is a little bit too eager to proceed into this ditch.
Definitely Asta.
Yeah.
And so Haru is forced into moving down into this steep embankment faster than he was ready to, either to protect someone or to try to prove his prowess maybe a little bit. As an older wolf, he doesn't necessarily want to be like unsure or left behind, and I think he ends up misstepping into like standing on a rock that is loose, or putting his paw into like some kind of gopher hole, or stepping on a particularly nasty bramble. But by the end of like when they come down to the base of this embankment where the ground levels out again, and behind them there's stretching this big yawn of dirt up to where they had been coming from, Haru has got like an injured leg, and he's trying to take some steps forward, and it's immediately clear that he's injured himself.
Yeah.
He's not saying anything about it.
And how does Asta react to injury?
Haru, are you okay? And he kind of runs over and starts smelling the wound.
It's nothing.
Let me help. No, please, Haru, please. I can do it. And he sort of takes his paws and like licks them, and
so Haru like lies down, and he's got the one forearm, and it's like, it's not misshapen, but it's definitely swollen looking, and kind of, it's bleeding.
And he sort of pushes his paws on the wound, like just pushes on it first. I'm sorry. So, that's good. Joe. He like pulls out and he's like, I'm sorry. I just need a bit of...
Be careful.
I will. And then he holds his paws over it, and he does a healing.
Yeah, no need to roll. We're in montage mode. So
montage.
You are able to heal.
Okay, so he rubs his paws together, and there's sort of a soft, a gray light almost emitting from the wound from his paws. And after a second, he lifts them, and the blood is still sort of matted on the fur, but there's no actual cut anymore. And Asta sort of looks over at Haru and says, I think it worked.
Haru stands up and takes a couple of like test steps and sniffs his leg and turns back to Asta and says, I think it's all right.
And Asta starts and he starts jumping around and sort of like hopping and like, is it really? I hope you get hurt again.
That night, you're all lying around, and Haru is feeling eaten since you've left, and you've healed him, and that seems to help him out. But every time you do, it seems to just go away eventually. So you've been trying to maintain the healing, and you find it hard to sleep, but eventually you do fall asleep, and another dream enters your mind. You see a creature, again, similar to the one that was chasing you. It stands on its hind legs, and it sits on this log that looks like it's been cut in a way that makes it easy to sit on. And he rocks back and forth, eyes staring at nothing, and an older creature comes out. This one may be a female, and you're not sure how, but this one seems older. And this female takes his hand, and the man stands up and continues to rock as the woman leads him inside a structure with a weird trunk that closes behind her. And then you wake up to Haru's nuzzling. Haru, do a perception check.
What kind?
Whatever you like.
I would like to smell or track, but perfect. I can do anything.
You can do smell. Smell's fine.
13.
13, okay. So you thought you'd heard something, and you nuzzled Asta awake, but now you're sure you smell something different.
What is it, Haru?
Strange.
I'm not sure. It's different.
And Asta sort of gets up slowly and yeah, maybe I smell something too. And I'll do a psychic roll.
Perfect.
Perception, psychic perception.
Yeah.
Ooh, which is probably not going to do anything. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Actually, it's not bad.
Oh, 10. Okay, yeah.
Oh, so, and I have doubles. So 2. So power points of 2.
Yeah, I'm going to
2 PP.
say that it works. And with your stunt points for that, I'm going to say that you're able to tell the direction of where it's coming from and to hear thoughts. Thoughts are a wolf and a fox and what is that? Is that an ape?
Haru, I hear someone thinking.
Quiet, cub. I'm smelling.
No, but I can hear what they can see us.
What?
They can see us. And Asta crouches down on the ground.
Who's they?
I don't know. I can hear
Haru
someone.
crouches right down beside you.
I can hear someone thinking.
Me.
How far away are they?
I should take it out first. Oh God. I've never done this before.
They're saying,
Where?
Take it out. Run! And Asta turns to Haru. Run! And starts running.
And Asta takes off into the brush.
Haru looks towards Yopa, growls at him, and starts running after Asta.
And Yopa runs over, kind of caught off guard, and he begins to gather Renarin. But then you hear a screeching sound coming from Yopa. Coming from where you'd left him.
I'm running in the direction, because you said I could tell which direction it was coming from, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're running towards the direction?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So as you run, you bump into something that kind of feels like a tree branch, but it moves and shifts, and you look up, and you see the creature there, the creature similar to the one that you saw in your vision last night, and it's holding something in its hands, a long stick with what looks to be some sort of string or sinew attached to it, and a smaller stick inside. And he jumps out of the way, and he pulls the string back, aiming it right at you.
And can I still read his thoughts?
Yes, he can.
And what is he
and
saying?
He's saying things. Shoot it, shoot it, shoot it, shoot it, shoot it, shoot it, shoot it. It's gonna eat you, it's gonna bite you.
And
And
for a
Haru
second,
was moving after Asta, like seconds later. So Haru comes into this clearing, I presume, and sees a creature with some sort of implement pointing at Asta.
whose head is just tilted, like Asta's head's just very like,
And I want to charge.
Go ahead, do a strength check.
A strength check.
Or you can do, like, you're fighting, or you can do a
Yeah,
fighting
I
roll.
want to attack. I want to move up to half my speed in yards and then make a melee attack.
Sounds great.
Oh.
Like a literal rules charge.
Yeah, I'm charging.
Joe reads the rules.
Cool. I'm going to try to bite him.
Perfect.
Take that, mofo.
So go ahead, roll.
15. 16.
Oh, yeah. No problem. So you managed to get your maw right around his arm. And
I
he
kind of
lets
picture
go
it
of
like, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
he lets go of the string, and the implement fires into the brush above. And you hear Yopa moving over too behind you, and the man lets out a cry. He goes, "Ah!" as he falls backwards, and you're on top of him.
I
shaking
deal 9 damage and I shake the fuck out of his arm.
No! You can hear the thoughts and the shouting, and you can hear the thoughts. Asta, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Oh.
And Asta runs over. So I pictured this again. He runs up to this man. Sorry, just because I think it's a really cool visual. And he like sees it, and he turns the thing towards him, Asta, and he's like about to shoot, but you can see he's nervous. And Asta sort of cocks his head, and like I picture from like Asta's point of view that this wolf just goes whoomp and like just tackles him out of frame as he like rolls around, which I think is really cool. But Asta feels sympathy for this man, this creature. Sorry, and he runs over and he says, "Haru, stop!
Can you talk to the man?"
I might be able to.
I think you can.
You might be able to.
Well, I mean, Asta's not right now. He's just trying to get you to stop right now because like he's like worried that you're gonna kill the guy.
Haru thinks he knows better than you. He's gonna continue worrying the arm in his teeth.
And he goes, and then Asta is like, he didn't want to.
With blood and foam.
He doesn't want to hurt us. He doesn't want to hurt us. He was scared.
I don't know how much. I feel like you're like.
Naive.
I don't know. Yeah, you're sort of a student to me.
Totally.
Like I feel like I know better than you do.
Absolutely. It's like, I guess, like compassion for this boy over like your logic. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, I'm sort of playing on your heart.
I don't know. What kind of check would that be, Justin?
With generally between characters, it'll be like an agreement thing.
Okay.
If like he tried to like put you to sleep or something like that, then he'd be rolling against. It'd be an opposed check. It'd be your
what about psychic? What if I projected like this guy's feelings into her mind or something?
Yeah, you can do that.
Yep.
With your psychic contact, you can give me an image.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna give the image of his fear and his fear of death and the doubt he had with like, this is the first time I'm gonna kill something or whatever.
Perfect. Sounds good. Yeah, go ahead and roll. Your target number will be 11 on that.
Ooh, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And what am I adding?
It would be your intelligence plus 2, I believe.
So 9, 10, 11, 12. Perfect.
Nice.
Okay. So, Haru, you start getting this overwhelming sense of doubt and fear and an image of a creature that looks like a female version of Yopa and a small version. Yeah, and you feel like this fondness for them and this fear of losing them. And how do you react?
Haru gives him one last shake and then is kind of baffled and drops his arm and takes a couple of paces back and is just staring at this creature who's got like a bleeding, mangled up arm and then looks back to Asta, looks back to the creature that he figured was attacking him and is so internally conflicted he just throws back his head
and the man backs up and he's like, he can't even push himself off the ground. He's so scared.
And Asta sort of looks between Haru and the man and turns to Haru and sort of steps between them for a second and says, I think he would have hurt us. I think he would have hurt me, but I could feel he was conflicted. I could feel like something within him was scared, and I feel like maybe I can talk to him. And Asta turns around and sort of walks up to him and sort of stands on his chest with like his little paws as this man's like, and he sort of just like tilts his head a little bit, and I'm gonna try to talk to him.
Okay, do a communication roll just for the initial contact. You won't have to roll every time you try to talk to him.
13, 14.
Perfect. So, what do you say?
Oh, with stunt points too. I guess like if we're having a conversation, I would sort of do it in like a cinematic way and be like, "Why were you trying to hurt us?" So you'd be like, "What?
What's up, dude? What's up?"
But I would be like, why were you going to hurt me?
And realization dawns in his eyes. And he says, "Oh my God. You're one of the Raiden." And we're going to stop it there for the mid-game.
Yeah!
Yay! Good thing we didn't kill him. He knows about us.
I would have done it.
You did. You played that well, and you did a good justification
awesome.
too.
That was fantastic. That scene reminded me of like, oh, what was it in The Lion King, where, oh yeah, little Simba is saved by Mufasa in the skeleton graveyard.
Yeah. Get out of here. There's a lot of cinematic moments so far. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the mid-game post. It's the time of the show where we stop the action and we jump over to the Gotta Pee in the Discord channel, and we do all the kind of stuff that we got to do. If you are watching this, please make sure to like the YouTube video. It makes us feel real special.
Yeah.
And also, you know, be cool. Leave comments and shit. I don't know. I got nothing. What's the mid-game question, Justin?
Oh, okay. What was Sierra's task when the attack started? Sierra the Hawk. What was she sent to do?
That's a good question. I thought you were going to ask because I wrote down all the animals. You should see. Sorry, let's just do that. I'm not going to undercut.
No, that's fine. You. Yeah, bonus points. For
I was thinking, how fun would it be? Yeah, maybe bonus points for whoever. I was just going to say, who can name the most animals? There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 named animals that I counted.
Okay. In
our sort of thing. I think it'd be kind of fun to see who could name just the animals. Who can get all the animals.
Cool. Yeah, I'm down
for that. Is that fair?
Let's try it.
Okay.
That's fair.
I think that's more fun because it's more going to be like, you know, like people trying to figure out which animals there were. I mean, and I'm counting us, by the way, in that 10.
Now, the named animals or the non-named ones?
The named animals.
The named animals.
I think that'd be easiest. I counted 10 named animals.
Perfect. Maybe they'll get more. Maybe
there probably were more, but I counted 10, so I would say, well, you would know how many there were, I guess.
Including you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Put it this way, I can say the names. I had Dryda, Renarin, Yopa, Remus.
Siri instead of Sierra, but it's not a big deal.
Yeah. I also marked which ones were adept, from which we knew.
Oh.
So I'm curious how many people can get the animals. Not the names, the animals.
Oh, what type of animal they are?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, because you just named all
No, I'm sorry. I meant how many named animals, as in, like, how many of these creatures. I get why that's confusing.
Because everyone just said all the names.
I worded it poorly. I poorly even. I'm sorry. I meant...
You worded that poorly, too.
I meant all the named animals. Yeah. Name those animals. Fine, I was tired. Put it in a way that makes sense. I just thinking the actual creatures.
Those animals.
The creatures. The creatures. There we go. So Jeff's got 6. See, I think weirdly enough, the creatures are almost harder. Like, because the names were really specific and unique. Like, I was immediately like, oh, that's a cool name. But the actual animals got forgotten because they're more common almost.
I wrote down both.
I did too. Look at it. Joe and I are like the same.
Strickland's name, I forgot.
Joe writes in all caps. So you gave it away? No, I didn't. I just was stupid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Lauren's got 9.
Ooh.
But I wrote down 10 and a carrot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
It's a red pepper.
Well, it's a red. It's a. Yeah, we'll see.
Rin, moist is not an animal.
Yeah.
And if it were, it would be the worst fucking animal.
What do you mean the worst? That'd be the cutest animal. Don't be mean to Rin. Rin, I got your back.
They've got dolphins in this game, so you can play a dolphin ride-in.
Oh my god!
I don't think I'd enjoy that.
You know, I don't know. I like it would have.
I super would.
Really? Unless we did it like a Finding Nemo sort of thing.
Well, it depends on the campaign setting for sure. But there's I remember reading a book when I was a little girl about like a kid who gets lost at sea, who's eventually like basically raised by dolphins. I think it might be called The Island of the Dolphins or something like that. It's all about how she like was brought to this island by a school of dolphins that saves her, and how she like survives on like abalone meat, and she like builds a shelter for herself. If anyone's read this fucking book, it's incredible. What is it called?
Good.
I'm just gonna Google Dolphin
Island.
Island, and it's in all
Island of the
caps
Dolphins.
still.
Isle of Dolphins, then.
Book? Dolphin Island book? Island of the Blue Dolphins. Yep.
The Blue Dolphin.
What about the
It's
gray
very-
dolphins? What about the
It's
green?
a very, very good book.
That's a sequel.
There was a film adaptation.
Was there? Was it called Free Willy?
Released in 1964. Oh, it was published in 1960. Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
Who are you mocking?
Wow. Myself.
Wow.
Owen Wilson. Wow.
Thank you,
Wow.
Dustin. I knew that you would know this book. Do you like it? Is my next question. Because
Oh, yeah,
it
that's
was
right
very
up Dustin's
formative
alley,
for
I
me.
think.
It was one of those books where it's like, oh, a child
Wow.
raised by wolves, but this child raised by dolphins.
But we don't
All right,
have too
Trevor.
much time for
Trevor
everything
the
else I got.
dolphin. I'm sorry.
So,
Let's keep going.
We got
I think the first person to get all 10 looks like Chris Sparrowhawk. Aurora
Chris
Kyles.
Sparrowhawk.
Nice.
So I say let's give it to her, unless I
Nice.
misunderstood. Yeah, that was 10, because Rin posted before, but she didn't get all 10. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, she missed one. So we're gonna give it to Chris. Well done, Chris.
Whoop-de-whoop.
Mid-game whoop-de-whoops. This is what we do
Whoop-de-whoops.
now for whoop-de-whoops.
Yeah. That's what I do.
That's what.
It's like the sand people in Star Wars who are...
Nerds. They're the worst. All right.
So nerds.
Without further ado, let's head back to Blue Rose.
So the man sits on the ground before you, his eyes wide, and says, "My goodness, I've heard that you live in these woods, but I never thought that I'd ever meet one of you. My goodness, I'm so sorry. I thought you were going to attack me, and I suppose you did, but I never would have harmed you if I knew you were a Raiden."
And Asta sort of looks up there and says, "Do we know the name Raiden? Or is that like..."
Yes,
What?
yes, you do.
Okay.
You do know Raiden.
That is our word. Do not use that word on us. So Asta says, sort of looks back to Haru, sort of excitedly, being like, "He's a good guy. We did the right thing," and then turns back and says, "You still wanted to hurt us? Why?"
Well, maybe you can relate, he says. He turns to Haru. "I hunt to feed my family." And Haru, you can understand him. You actually, like, he's actually speaking with his mouth, and you actually understand the language he is speaking. It's the language that Dradia teaches all of the young. And he continues and says, "My family needs to eat, and so I hunt. And usually I don't see the combination of animals like yourselves. Usually when I see a wolf, I see it in packs, and I stay away. I don't hunt wolves or foxes even. I find your kind too beautiful, but sometimes deer, sometimes rabbit, depending on what time of year and the game around. I'm just so amazed right now. I'm sorry, I wouldn't have... I didn't mean to harm you. I hope I didn't."
No. I know you're kind.
Haru. And Asta walks over, and I'm going to heal this mofo. A little bit of my shoo-shoo.
You've
Oh.
encountered
Oh,
human
brother!
You're gonna get the dragon die of health, so that's 6 plus 2 your intelligence plus your healing focus. So he's going to get 10 points back, which is pretty much exactly what he lost.
Basically.
More
his
than what he
flesh
lost.
thins.
More than what he got lost. He's got like he's even more vigorous now.
And
Yeah,
so,
he gets an erection.
ooh, let me deal with that
His
too.
arm is good, and he's feeling very exceptional.
Would you like a healing tug? So I hold my hands over the wound, and as I'm doing so, I look up to him and I say, "We've come from deep within the wood. We were being hunted, followed by big creatures, dangerous things. Have you seen any?"
What, like a bear?
No. Shadows.
Shadows.
Yes. Creatures of death.
Where did they come from?
North of here.
Shadow Gate.
We've been running 3 days.
A shadow gate. You're serious?
Yes.
Oh no. I need to warn the village. How far? How many days walk away from here?
We ran 3 days, I just said. Just a minute ago.
I'm sorry, I'm a little out of it because I just got bit on the arm and
Well, listen!
3 days. Maybe we still have time. Well, what about this one?
Wait, we're looking for a blue rose.
That's
Do
what
you
I was
know
gonna
this
ask.
Flower.
Blue rose. Why, yes, I know exactly where it is.
You must take us there.
I don't know if I'd be able
Now.
to take you. Okay, follow me. And he leads
I
you-
don't know if I will now. Okay, let's go. It's like, wait, what?
he stands up.
That's how you get
and-
shit done in the world.
He begins to lead you farther south.
My dad was always
And,
right.
He seems kind of frantic, as if he's got other things on his mind. And after a few hours of walking with relatively little communication, actually, he does explain. He says, "My village is nearby. It's called Lepic, and my family lives there. And if a shadow gate has opened, the queen needs to know about it." And
Yes.
he continues to lead you towards this village of Lepic. And it's small, it's strange, you've never seen a village before, but without getting too much into it, you can smell meat cooking on fires.
What's that terrible smell? And I look up at Haru, who's like licking his chops, and I'm like, meat.
Slavering.
They're
But-
preparing dinner for tonight.
I don't like to go into these establishments. Haru's got his hackles up, looking at the lights of this village.
Fine.
These
You
places.
stay back here. Are you hungry? Can I get you something to eat? You can stay here
Yes.
if you like.
Yes, but I don't want to go in.
Okay,
Asta,
well, you stay here. It's fine.
you be careful.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay. I'll go in, I guess.
So Asta, he leads you into this village, and some of the other humans, they look down at you and give you strange looks, and some of them smile and cock
And
their
Asta's
heads.
sort of just looking around, like, excitedly, like,
Pooh. And you see like a really like gruff looking man turn and look towards you, and you see, oh no, I won't do that to poor Asta, but you see like a number of like
a fox
birds
on a spit.
hanging. No. And he raises an eyebrow as you walk by, and the man says, "This is my house."
Wow. It's a nice house.
Oh, thank you. It's quite humble, but please come in. Honey? Honeys? This is...
A polygamist, eh?
No, he's
He's got a daughter.
many apiaries.
Ah.
So what is your name?
So Asta, this is the first time he's ever seen any of this. He's just wildly whipping around as he crosses through the village and runs up and sniffs someone's leg and sort of sniffs someone's foot and sniffs someone's butt and like sort of licks someone's hand. And as he gets to this house, he's just awestruck. And the minute he comes in, he just jumps up on the table, sort of knocking wooden bowls off, and sort of looks around, just constantly looking. And when the young girl walks in, he like hops down and runs over and like scoots around her legs real quick and like sniffs them and sort of nips at them and jumps back on the table and sort of sits just like looking around.
And there's a little girl there, and she smiles and giggles, and she reaches down to try and pet you and play with you.
And Asta takes it happily and like plays around and sort of rolls around a little bit and like reveals his belly.
No.
Yeah, and she rubs it. And the man walks in and says, "Well, it is good to meet you, Asta. My name is Devin. This is my wife, Ria, and our beautiful daughter, Soraya. Yeah, Soraya. And the girl giggles as she continues to play, and the man turns to his wife and says, "Dear, is Rikus still here? He came here from the capital, right? He's still here, right? Oh, honey, I believe he's leaving. Why? What is this animal? Oh, he's not an animal. He's a Raiden."
I'm a Raiden, he said. I say to them and say,
And they're like,
my name is Asta. We come from deep within the woods, and me and my friends are here to try to help my brother, who's very sick.
Like the stories?
Maybe.
Yes, like the stories, Devin says.
Are the
Where
stories
is he?
about a handsome and heroic fox?
Perhaps there will be. Listen, and he gets down on one knee.
depends how you play this game, I think.
He bends down on one knee, and you can see he's troubled, and you can sense the fear within him. And he says to you, "There is a man who is here. I will take you to him, but, dear, you must pack things. We need to go. We need to leave here." "Why, honey, why?" "A shadow gate has opened." And the wife's eyes go wide. "Do not be alarmed. I think we have some time, but you must gather the rest of the village and tell them that we need to move. We need to move south to the capital." And the wife nods and begins preparing things, and eventually she leaves the house and says, "All right, follow me, Asta."
And he does, and he sort of stops at the door and turns back to Sarai and says, "I helped your dad. He's feeling better now." And he sort of looks over, and like his arm is like torn, like the fabric is like torn and bloody, but there's no wound. It's just like a deep scar. And she sort of looks at it for like a second.
And then she smiles and says, "Is it true, Daddy? Is this fox a hero?" And Devin turns and says, "Yes, he saved my life." And then he walks out of the door, and he grabs a hunk of meat as he leaves.
And so does Asta. Like puts it in his mouth and like trots out. Like it's comically large too. It's like.
And so he leads you down the road towards the front of the village, and there are a couple of horses that have what looks to be a small house on round branches. And he says, "This is Rikus's carriage. He's one of the Sovereign's finest. We're very lucky that he's here right now."
And Asta walks up to the horse and says, "Hello, Rikus. My name is Asta. I'm here to..." And he stops to me and says, "I'm here to find the blue rose."
You're not talking with your mouth.
Well, it's mind. Right, sorry. It's
And the horse neighs and turns towards you, kind of like Yopa. He's not sentient or awakened yet.
Right, but like he's so like Asta's just so used to talking to animals over anything else, right? Like it's natural for him to think the animal would be the person.
Right. And Devin turns to a man who is putting things into the back, and you hear him say, "Rikus, we have a problem. I've told my wife to warn the village, but this here," and he gestures to you, and you see a head pop out from the back of the carriage, and this man has short blonde hair that is coiffed over to one side, and chiseled features and a beard. And
oh, so you're describing me. Thanks, Justin. That's complimentary.
Anyways, he comes from the carriage. Yes, of course, Harlan. Describing you to a T.
I mean, if you had a really big block of wood, you could chisel these features. It would just take a lot of mass.
He says, "A fox. Come on, we don't have a lot of time here."
I'm sorry.
It's okay. "A fox? No, not just a fox. A Raiden." "What?" "He says that one of the shadow gates is opened." Where?" "To the north." Damn it. "Tyrion, And the man who's sitting behind the horse is kind of looking down at you oddly. Says, "What?" And he's holding some ropes in his hands. "You'll need to leave towards Aldous sooner." Whoa, wait, Devon says. "These animals, these Raiden, they need to go to the capital." "Why is that?" "They're seeking the Blue Rose. They need to speak with the Queen. They also have a Raiden who is in terrible danger, who's been touched by the shadow, apparently."
He's my brother, sir.
And through the shadows of the falling evening, Haru trots into town. The silhouette of this wolf scaring a couple of people as he moves through the city and finds Asta, probably startling the people on the wagon. And he sits down beside the fox and telepathically says to them, "We need to go now."
"Where is this shadow gate that you speak of? If you can direct me to it, I might be able to help buy you some time." And this is Rikus speaking. "My name is Rikus, by the way. And you are..."
"Haru. Do you know Amity Glen?"
"Amity Glen? No, I haven't heard of it."
3 days trot from here, north. And past that, maybe half a day. That is where the gate lies.
"And what of your leader?" "I've heard of the Glens. They're normally led by unicorns, correct?"
Yes, she stayed behind to give us time to warn you, to find the rose. We don't know. Our Asta has been seeing visions of her. Yes, Asta?
I've seen things, yeah.
Yes, she's bleeding and injured and trying to ward off the evil that comes towards you.
Very good. Thank you very much for the information. Devon, join your wife. Gather the rest of the village. We have to travel south to Aldous as quickly as possible. But you three, you seem to be in even more of a hurry, correct?
Yes, this young pup. His life is not much longer for this world.
Don't say that, Haru.
It's true.
Very well. Well, you must speak to the Queen. The Blue Rose you seek is in the capital of Aldous. The Queen wields it. I do not know how it would help you in this situation, but I'm sure the Queen or one of her adepts would be able to find a way to help this young fox.
Who is this Queen, and why does she have what we seek?
Queen Jalen. She is the Queen of Aldous, my sovereign, and a fair ruler over all of Aldous. You can trust her, just as you can trust me. I want you to take my carriage. It will take you all the way to Aldous as quickly as possible. My driver will tend to you and feed you and make sure you have everything that you need. Right? And a voice comes from the front. That's right. All right.
Can we leave now?
Yes, of course. And he opens up the back of the carriage. And he opens up some windows as well, so that you don't feel so trapped inside. And the sun is beginning to set.
There's an ape outside of the town with the brother of this fox. We must find him as well.
Can you call him over?
Yes, I can try, though he does not often respond to my commands. Yopa! Yopa! She tries to call him. He tries to call him.
Mentally? Psychically? Yep. And you hear the thoughts of an ape. And you get a sense of affirmation as Yopa's on his way. He's gathered his things.
He'll be here in a moment.
He was kind of just sitting there, because nobody told him what to do. He just kind of plunked down with the bag and the satchel next to him, Renarin. And every now and then he'd look down at the fox and stroke his belly and like a weeping noise.
This game is like hurting me in ways.
It's weird. I actually kind of got teary-eyed when I thought about certain animals. Okay.
They're more important than people.
Right?
Wow.
So he finally finds his way. You see Yopa emerge. And you all get into the carriage, I imagine?
Yeah, I want to do what Dustin says and do a montage where Asta is hanging out the one window and Haru is hanging out the other window, and we're just smelling the breeze, and our like hair is flying back and our ears are flying back.
I definitely figure like Haru gets in the back and Yopa gets in the back and Asta's in the passenger seat, like looking around, like waiting to be buckled in. Or, I mean, it's not a car, obviously, but
right.
He like thinks he's people.
So good.
The door is closed, and you introduce yourself to the man sitting next to you. His name's Tyrion, and the doors to the back of the carriage close. And Rikus steps up, and he lovingly pats one of the horses in the front, and he says, Devin standing next to him, "Thank you to all three of you. This is very troubling news, but because you brought it to me, there is a good chance that this village will be safe, and hopefully the rest of the Sovereign will be able to act accordingly. Please tell the Queen that Rikus sent you, and any guards that you speak my name, and they will bring you an audience with the Queen right away. Godspeed." And Devin walks up to you, Asta, and says, "Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Asta."
You're welcome.
And then the driver whips the reins, and the horses jump into action, running forward. The carriage kind of tilting and wobbling behind as you make your way down the road toward Aldous.
Noses out the window.
Noses out the window, montage time! So the sun is already setting, and it's actually getting pretty late. You guys are quite tired. You've had a long day.
Mm-hmm.
And we will do another montage tomorrow. We'll just start with a night tonight. And Asta, you have another dream tonight. Where are you? Did you go into the back to dream? Or
I kind of figured I'm still up front. I think
with your
Asta's
head on the driver's lap.
Yeah, he's sort of in that
So
young age where he feels like he sort of belongs to doing whatever he wants.
Yeah.
So yeah, his little chin's just on the knee of Rikus.
So you are dreaming, and Tyrion looks down as he sees like your paws twitching a little bit, as you have another vision, and this one is of a woman, but this woman has a large belly, and she's peeking out of a window, eyes wide, and the setting sun in this area reveals a landscape that is completely barren. And you see other people walking, but they don't look like the villagers that you saw. These people look like they're wearing rags as clothes, dirty rags, and they trudge through mud and carry wheelbarrows. You just assume that they're wheelbarrows. These carrying objects with wheels, and filled with coal. And you get a sense of worry. And then you wake up.
And then I put my head back on, man.
And sleep.
So
okay,
cute.
So the next day of travel, give me a... okay, Joe, why don't you describe your dream montage?
Yeah, Haru has his nose out the window basically 24/7 during this carriage ride when he's not checking in on Yopa. Or Rennie. And so he has his nose at the window for, a good couple of hours in the morning and spots like a herd of deer and is unable to resist just barking, just straight up barking and lunging, trying to get out the window at the deer, and they all scatter, and he's like wagging his tail and like so pleased with himself, like childishly about having like made these deer afraid. And that's like seriously like his standout memory from this whole journey.
Fantastic. And that night, as you keep on retelling the story to the horses and to Asta, eventually Asta falls asleep and he has another dream. And this one is of two young teenagers. They look like young versions of the people that you've seen, and they sit kneeling in what looks to be a completely stone structure. and they're kneeling and they've got their hands together and they're muttering with their eyes closed. And you see a whole bunch of other children like these, but these teenagers are important somehow. They're the ones that your vision is focused on. And from a view behind them, you can see what they're kneeling towards is a large altar with a raging flame, a fire just billowing into the ceiling, as there are two human adults wearing completely red robes that conceal their faces. And then you wake up. And Harlan, what happens today?
Asta spends some time with his brother and sort of just licking his wounds and sort of putting his head on his chest and sort of just doing those sighs, the, you know, where it's like the deep sort of animal breath when they're sort of like sad a little bit. But I'm also going to do scrying.
Scrying, okay, sure.
And I'm going to try, he's going to sort of go to the back of the open carriage and look out as it moves and sort of sit and close his eyes again. And I think he's going to dive once again to Dradea, I think. Because she was sort of the most mother-like that he, you know, he was his mother figure. So,
Right.
So we'll do that.
Perfect. So montage mode, you scry, and eventually the vision of Dradea forms, and your heart sinks as you see Dradea standing. It looks like she's gone into the deep woods, and around her there are a number of these creatures, countless, and in the background you see what you must assume is the Shadow Gate, and these creatures keep on pouring out, and Dradea is between them, and she glances over to the side and she sees the body of Strickland lying next to her. He's gone, and she tries to move and buck and knock away some of the creatures that advance on her. But slowly, the billowing shadow from the portal begins to seep forward, and it slowly surrounds her hooves. She's completely distracted by the creatures that she doesn't even notice as the shadow rises and twines around her legs, and then it's up her chest, and it's around her back and completely covering her until it's her entire head. And then she raises her head into the sky as the shadow becomes higher and higher, and then she's with you. Her consciousness, she senses you there, and she says, "Find the blue rose, Asta. Save Renarin's soul."
And again, he's been crying, and he turns towards Haru, who's sort of just like licking his paws, and sort of stops. And their eyes meet, and Asta just says, "Dradea didn't make it."
Starts whining.
And Asta sort of just sits down and leans his head out the back of the carriage as it bumps along the road, and sort of just watches on like a gray, rainy day, I imagine.
Perfect. That day is solemn and rainy, and you have another dream. This time you see a tree with a thick trunk. And as your vision gets closer and closer to the tree, you see a gap, kind of a gash in between the bark. And moving through it, there is a solid, clear object. Another crystal, not unlike the one you saw before with the metallic object on that surface. But this crystal is much larger, and within there is a woman curled up with her fists in front of her face, and her heart isn't beating. And then you wake up.
I can't do this anymore, Haru. Every night I have dreams. They're more and more vivid, more and more scary, and they never make sense.
What was it?
I don't even know. It was a woman. Another woman that I'd never seen before.
Out from the front. We're nearing the capital. And he drove through the night, knowing that your mission was urgent, and these horses are used to long, long days of travel. And you look out the windows, and the landscape is completely different. The trees had been thinning for a while, but now there are barely any trees around. And you see rolling hills as far as the eye can see. And these hills are, there's like squares of land that, like, they kind of look like patches. And there are people in these squares, and they're pulling rakes or sticks along on the ground. And every now and then a human looks up and waves as the carriage goes by.
And
Do you see any of these women from your dreams?
Asta's sort of like waving at them as they wave at him. What? No.
Asta, are these the people that you saw?
I don't think so. And he sort of looks. Do they look familiar, or?
Nope, not at all.
No, they don't. I mean, they look like this, but they're not these. Hi.
And as you turn your head out the window, your jaw drops, Asta, as you are on the top of a hill right now, and you're starting to bend down into a road, and you see it. What must be the city of Aldous, the city of the Blue Rose. It rises high above the farm fields around. Its white stone walls stretch across almost as far as the eye can see. It's wide. There's a river running through it, and a waterfall trickles down on one side, leading to a higher tier of the castle, and towers and spires rise into the sky, higher than some of the trees in the forest, which you can hardly believe, because those trees are tall. And it's absolutely breathtaking.
This is unlike any forest I've ever seen.
I didn't know places like this existed. I thought everywhere was like the woods, just tall, beautiful trees and rotting logs. But this is something else.
The carriage stops in front of the large walls. That now that you're in front of them, see even bigger. They rise very, very high. And you hear Tyrion mutter something, and a couple guards walk over, and these men are wearing metal, a man and a woman, and they peer in. They've got really pointy sticks, and they nod, and the doors begin to open, and the carriage moves forward into the streets of Aldous.
Haru is like dumbfounded. He's uncomfortable among civilization at the best of times. This is stressful. He's never been in a city before. The smells are just overwhelming. He's like panting. Not because he's hot, but because he's just uncomfortable with all of this.
And Yopa notices that, and Yopa looks out the window and goes, "Ooh!" and turns back too and sits down under the window and like pats his head down so that it's not visible, and begins to like hold you and stroke your side.
Aww.
And the carriage weaves and turns, and you can hear like the sounds too are just overwhelming. There's people shouting, people laughing. You even hear a strange sound of someone who sounds like they're talking, but the way that they're talking is up and down, and it moves and lilts in a way that you've never heard before, and you find yourself focusing in on just this one voice, that its sweetness is unparalleled by anything you've heard, almost like bird song, until eventually it fades away. And you pass through another set of gates, and after a few more minutes, the carriage rolls to a stop. And Tyrion knocks on the back carriage and says, "You've made it. It's time for your audience with the Queen." And the doors to the carriage.
And Asta hops down and sort of looks around and just excitedly is like, wow, Haru, look at all this. Even beneath my paws it feels different. And it's like soft stone or something.
Slowly extracting himself from the carriage and does a big stretch and kind of looks around. It's like,
and
this is a dangerous place.
This area is a much more secluded area than where you came in. And there are a few people around wearing armor and holding the pointed sticks. But they stand ready. It looks like they're more there to escort you than to fight you.
I guess let's talk to the queen.
Haru broadcasts to as many people as he can reach. Rikus sent us here.
And the man with the spear nods and looks a little taken aback and says, Rikus sent you, What's the trouble?
A dark portal. Something we must speak with a queen about.
Good. Follow me. And he turns and begins walking down this palisade, this carpet, and the other guard turns with him, and they walk in complete tandem. And I was just going to describe the colors of this area, but
we're colorblind.
Yeah, you're colorblind, so you'll be able to see.
It's
what?
beautiful
Really?
grays and and
dogs aren't colorblind. They can't see reds.
They can't see reds. So
yeah, but they can see yellow, blue, green.
Blue. There's a blue carpet. It's blue with yellow trimming, and there are banners streaming from the ceiling as you are guided toward these big, broad doors that glisten in the sunlight. And the two guards open them, and you're led inside this absolutely gorgeous, luxurious front room, and they continue to guide you through this very lavish palace, up these stairs until you see a throne.
And Haru is moving with none of his usual competence. Like, every step is a hesitation. Everything merits like a pre-check before he goes into a room. Like, he's looking around corners, smelling things way too long. Like, definitely uncomfortable with this environ.
Environ, perfect. So with Haru feeling very uncomfortable, Asta is looking around, curious and awestruck by everything. Suddenly it's time to stop. And the guards stop in front of you and say, these Raiden have requested an audience with the queen, also requested by Rikus himself, one of the sovereign's finest. Do you agree? And do you approve, rather? And the queen nods her head.
What does she look like?
Gray, with gray and red.
Balin is the epitome of a royal queen. She sits atop her throne proudly, beautiful billowing dress down beneath her. It's green, and she has long red hair, vibrant gray hair.
Nope, not to us.
Vibrant hair runs down her chest, and it's held together by golden bangles. And her face is, well, I mean, it's perfect as far as human faces go, and she's got wide green eyes, and she looks at you and she gives off this aura of warmth and fairness, but also firmness and strength. And she stands from her throne, and you see also in her hand she holds a scepter, and she says, "Welcome to Aldous, Raiden. I sensed you were coming, but I did not know what you would look like." And she raises the rose, or the scepter, and you see it. Gold down the shaft of the scepter, and its head is shaped like a blue rose.
Do I recognize her?
You do. You haven't recently.
Nice.
You recently haven't had any dreams of her, but you have had dreams before when you were growing up, especially when you were in your most extensive training with Sira. You remember having these visions of this lady, and this lady was comforting you, consoling you, telling you that it would be all right.
It's you. It's we've met before, haven't we?
Perhaps we have. The eternal dance works in mysterious ways. And then she looks down at Yopa and says, well, actually, first she says, my name is Queen Jalen, but you can just call me Jalen. What are your names?
My name is Asta.
Haru.
Haru. And who is this one?
This is Yopa.
Yopa. And he carries another.
Renarin.
Oh.
My brother.
And her gaze shifts towards a man who's standing next to her. And this man has long, wispy white hair, and he's quite aged, and it looks like he's got like burn scars on the side of his face. And he gives her a concerned look and nods. And she leans forward and says, what is it that afflicts him? There is something wrong.
He found the Shadowgate.
Shadowgate, she says, and she turns to the guards, and the guards immediately stand to attention. Please, tell us more. And she gestures for one of these guards wearing the shiniest armor. He comes forward.
And I sort of nervously stand between him and Ren, and I say, promise you won't hurt him.
We will not hurt him, but the darkness that's within him needs to be taken care of.
But it can be. It can be. Haru, tell them. Tell them that the blue rose is what we need.
Whoa. First, please, tell me what happened. Exactly what happened.
Renarin came back to the glen where we live on a feast day. Ill. He vomited. We all sensed that evil in him and said that he had been pursued by shadows, that he saw a gate half a day's run from our home. I personally did not believe him, but our leader, Dridia, and then Haru looks to the side and takes a moment.
Dridia.
She knew.
I haven't heard long.
Yes, well, she was a most powerful and loyal friend to us.
Was?
Dridia sent a retinue of our folk with the children to take them somewhere safe. She directed us to come south to find the blue rose, that we might heal Ren and bring peace. And she stayed behind with a bear we loved. And they stayed to fend off these shadowy invaders. They came upon us, they ran beside us, and we continued. We outran them for 3 days, found a village nearby. We came in a moving house drawn by horses to this city, and we know Dridia is dead.
What did these creatures look like that you were running from? They emerged from the Shadowgate, you say?
I did not see it. They smell of death, and they leak darkness.
I saw. And I relay what I had visioned from Ren? Sort of an example.
Well, it's dark fiends. I knew this day would come. The shadows on the eternal plane were bound to cast a shadow on us. Elias, I'd like you to send a retinue of the Sovereign's finest north to Lepik. Stop this threat there. Now, one of my Sovereign's finest was in Lepik. My guard tells me that he sent you.
Rikus.
Right. Has he already gathered the villagers?
He said as much, but I cannot trust any of you. I'm sorry.
I trust Rikus with my life, and the life of our citizens, so I'm sure he has done what he said. And she nods to Elias, and Elias turns and marches off stiffly, nodding to the other guards who follow him out. And then it's just you, the queen, and this other man who stands next to her. Well, thank you for all this information. You say you come here seeking assistance, healing for this young fox? Is that...
Ren, my brother, we're the same. And both of our black matted fur were black foxes, the rarest of the rare, apparently. I don't know how rare they are.
The rarest of the rare.
They are in this world. Please, we need help. The blue rose, it's the only thing that can get the shadow out of him.
The blue rose will be able to sense the shadow. And it does. I can feel that Renarin's soul, his beautiful soul, has been tainted by this shadow, and if we do not move quickly, it will completely consume his soul.
Help him.
And she turns, looking a little defeated, down to this other man. She says, "Modest, do you have any ideas?" And the man with the burn-scarred face turns, and he makes eye contact with each of you, Asta, Haru, and Yopa. And he says, bring him close. And Yopa moves over and lays down the... Actually, Yopa actually turns towards Haru. And...
Haru sort of gestures with his muzzle.
Alright, and Yopa waddles over and he places Renarin gently down on the ground. And as he unfurls the cloth, you're kind of shocked by how much it is advanced in the last 24 hours. He's still breathing, but his breaths are ragged and torn, and his body...
Does he look different?
He does, yeah. His body is he's pretty much shriveled away. He's pretty much skin and bone, and his eyes are wide, and most chilling of all is his eyes are completely black. We do not have much time, Queen Jalen. There is nothing that I can do for this young Raiden's form.
No!
But
you must!
I can save his soul.
How? Well, what do you mean save his soul? Can you save him? Will I get my brother back?
We traveled all this way.
It will be different. It will be different, Jalen says. We save his soul, and perhaps his soul will find another form to inhabit, Queen Jalen says. But this form, this fox, there is nothing we can do to save it. We can either leave it and let the shadow fester, or we can save his soul.
No.
Haru, I don't understand. Haru, what are they saying?
They say they can't do what we thought. They can't save your brother.
What do they mean save his soul? I don't understand.
They'll put his essence into some other container. some other bag of flesh. What do you propose? What is the solution here?
No, no. And Asta walks over and sort of drapes over the body. No, Ren would do anything for me. The only reason he got hurt was because he was out trying to find a flower for me. You can't take him away. You can't take my brother away from me.
He's already gone.
He's not gone!
Asta.
He's not. Haru. I can feel him. And I'm going to do a psychic connection with him to see if there's any of him left within this form.
Go for it. Go ahead and roll, and you're going to be getting a boost because you're so close to him.
Plus a billion. 6, 3, 3, so that's 12. Plus 3 plus 2, it's like 17 or something. But I also have 3...
Everything's made up, and the points don't matter.
No, I mean, once you reach a certain point, I know I'm not going to have to worry about getting higher. So I know once I'm above 15, I'm safe. But I had 3 stunt points as well.
3 stunt points.
Yeah.
Okay, so you, as you psychically
do a cartwheel, and
you can hear.
It's emotional.
Emotional stunts.
His thoughts, and these thoughts are dark. Kill. There's flesh nearby. Consume it. Eat it. Oh, you're an adept. I can feel it. Oh.
And I fight it, and I move past it, and I try to find the piece of Ren within there. And I close my eyes, and as I slip out of my own consciousness, I see him in like a faded field, and it's the two of us in sort of a hazy glow. It's almost like looking through tiny little glasses. I can only see a tiny view, but I can see the essence of Ren. And I walk up to him and I say, Ren, they want me. They want me to remove you from this body. They say that they can save you, but not as a fox. I don't know if
Asta.
I can lose you.
Asta. Oh, Asta. And he runs towards you and nuzzles his maw against yours.
And I nuzzle him back.
I've been so scared. I'm all but lost.
It's okay. It's
I'm
okay.
not me anymore.
Ren. And I nuzzle him, and I sort of put my face against him, and I step back, and he said, but I need to know if I'm doing the right thing by saving your soul, by letting you die in this body. I can't live without my brother, but if it means no more pain for you, no more fear, then I'll do it.
I feel so much pain. It hurts, Asta. It hurts. You say that they can save my soul? And he, for the first time, looks up and into your eyes. His are glazed over. You can save my soul, right? Yeah, but yeah. Asta, you have to do it. I don't like what's in me. I want it to be gone, and if it means that this body goes too, then so be it. But I'll always be with you, Asta. I'll always be by your side. You've been so brave. I haven't been able to say it, but I've heard some of the things that happened, and I'm so proud of you. I'm sorry I couldn't get your flower.
It's not your fault. Promise that when you leave this body that you will stay with me. Promise.
I'll try.
And as I back away, his vision fades into sort of like a cloud of dust, and I wake up with my chin on his body, which is breathing so labored. And with wet eyes, I look up towards the queen and back towards Haru, and I step back. Yeah. You can save his soul.
And the queen looks towards Modest, and Modest says, right, but we don't have much time. And he swiftly picks up Renarin's body that's starting to convulse, and he begins walking swiftly. The queen rises and follows him, and you are led to a little open area that's outside, and you can see out, and the sun has set, and the stars are out. It's a beautiful moon-filled sky, and you've never actually seen the sky without trees in the way. And looking up, you also see a crystal that is in this structure, and it's spinning. And Jalen raises a hand. Structure begins to descend, and the queen's chamber it rises up, and you sink lower and lower and lower, and eventually there are two golden doors right in front of you. And with a wave of her hand, Jalen opens the doors psychically, and excuse me, you are led through into the basement of the castle. You've been lowered very, very far, and the tunnels are dark but lit with candles, and every now and then you'll pass someone wearing robes, but eventually you're led to a door, an unassuming door, and Modest opens it while he holds Renarin in one hand. And you see yourself in a strange place. Asta, you actually recognize it from one of your visions. There is a crystal, like the one that was in that descending structure. It is being held by a metal brace. And beside it, on that surface, that white surface with the tree trunks made of metal, there's a body that looks kind of like Yopa, except this body is completely still, and it's also made completely of metal, brass parts. And Modest takes Renarin into this room, and he places him on an empty table and gestures for you all to gather around. And there's like the crystal, the only light in the room is this crystal that's braced, and it lets out a deep blue glow. And there is a as he lowers it onto the table, he says, "This is where we will do it. Is there anything that you wanted to say before we begin?"
What will become of him?
His soul will be purged of the shadow. And from that is all I can tell you. His soul will be saved. I am certain of it.
Are you sure, Asta, that this is the path we must follow?
And Asta looks up to Haru with, again, crying, and turns back and says, "It's what Ren wanted. I owe him that much." And he sort of turns away and nuzzles against Haru, not able to sort of look as Yopa places him on the table.
And so he's placed onto the table, and he reaches a hand down, hovering, almost like you do when you heal Asta. And he begins to mutter a few words. And all of a sudden, Renarin's body goes stiff, and his eyes that were black begin to radiate different colors.
And Asta puts his head harder into Haru, not able to look.
Blue, green, yellow, purple, pink, white, red, gray, pink, purple, red, yellow, orange, blah, blah, blah. All of these different colors are shooting through his eyes. You see, this soul needs to be saved, Jalen says as Modest continues to work. This
Don't look.
soul,
And
this
he
brother
just
of
shoves his
yours
head deeper into your chest.
is tied with the fate of Aldea, and I would never have had you do that without your will, but it is necessary for our destiny for this to happen. And Modest continues, and all of a sudden this Renarin's body glows even more, and it becomes bright, and Modest lifts his hand up, seeming to pull this spirit out of him. And this light is vibrant and it keeps on changing colors. This is a chromatic soul, Jalen says, and it can't be tainted. And Modest reaches his hand in, continuing to mutter, and you see him feel around inside this ball of shifting color light. And finally, he stops, his grasp gaining purchase, and he pulls, gritting his teeth, continuing to mutter. And he pulls out what looks to be a black orb, and it emanates this darkness. But also, as he does this, and as he pulls the light out from Renarin's body, the body goes limp. And he continues to hold this shadow orb, and he passes it over to Jalen, and she takes it telepathically, and she begins to concentrate strongly on it and push her hands together, telekinetic force coming from each, and this orb begins to crunch and twist and break until it's completely imploded from existence. The Modest continues, and he takes this soul, this chromatic soul, and he brings it toward the crystal that's being held up. And he puts it into the crystal, and the crystal begins to fade. And for a moment, there's nothing. And Modest lets out a sigh. He stopped muttering, and he turns towards the four of you. And he walks over, and he's about to speak when the crystal begins to glow as well. And it begins to radiate these same colors: red, blue, green, orange, purple, yellow, gray, white. And then it gets so bright that Jalen and Modest cover their eyes, and you have to keep your heads down. It's so bright and so pure, and the crystal begins to shake, and it vibrates against its braces, and all of a sudden there's a loud crash, a shattering noise, as the crystal breaks, and you wince and look away, but nobody cries out in pain. The crystal has split into many different parts, into 7 different colored crystals. There is a red one, a blue one, a green one, an orange one, a yellow one, a purple one, and a gray one, like the color of ash. And they spin around the room slowly, and you gaze up. This display of lights is nothing short of astounding. And one by one, the crystals begin to leave the room.
And Asta, who's had his head sort of shoved into Haru the whole time, sort of nervously looks up and watches them float out of the room. Where are they going?
And Yopa, curious, begins to waddle out of the room, following the crystals.
And Asta does too, and sort of trots along, leaving the body of Ren behind. I'm assuming it's lifeless.
Yes, it is. And you rise up the stairs and back through the Queen's chambers and the main hall of the castle, and the crystals lead you out onto a courtyard. And the night is in full swing now. The stars are out, and the crickets and grasshoppers are chirping. And the crystals float around you. And they begin to rise into the sky, one by one, as Haru, Asta, Jalen, Modest, and Yopa stand in the courtyard, heads tilted to the sky. They watch the crystals. The Raidan and humans become small and smaller as the 7 crystal shards rise higher into the night sky, breaking past the clouds. They are a great height above Aldous, Just the city, just a speck in the distance. And they spin 3 times in a circle. And the 5 of you can still see this, these bright lights in the sky. Then each one shoots in a different direction, like shooting stars. And as we follow these crystals, these different colored souls, each part of the chromatic soul, we see where they go. One finds a stag who lays in a field. It merges into his back, and when he opens his eyes, he recognizes that he is in a field, and he is surrounded by doe, and that he can hear himself think. One finds a pregnant woman and merges into her belly while she sleeps, a fetus glowing in the dark room. One finds a small village to the south and sees a man rocking back and forth, his eyes wide. Even at this time of night, he's not asleep, his mind disconnected from reality. But when the crystal merges with him, his thoughts settle. And for the first time in his life, his eyes focus on his surroundings, and he stops moving. 2 different colored crystals travel in tandem, twisting and turning in the night sky, their fates intertwined. They descend into the land of Jarzan, where they find 2 teens in a chapel that houses a raging flame, sleeping in their beds. Side by side, the 2 crystals merge into them simultaneously, and the once cold and muted hearts of the teens grow warm again. Then one crystal finds a tall, thick tree. A woman is curled up in a large Shas crystal beneath the bark. The floating crystal merges with her, and her completely still heart begins to beat, and the crystal around her begins to shatter. And the last crystal, it spins in the air, still. And then it begins to descend back towards the 5 of you. And it stops right before you and kind of hovers in front of the 5 of you before it moves down and into the chest of Yopa. And Yopa's eyes go wide, and he drops his arms down, and after a moment he blinks and turns towards Asta and says, "Brother?" And now, as we feel Yopa's heart beat, we hear the thoughts in his head, we can close our eyes again and return to the eternal dance. Leave this world of Aldea behind and travel back to the world that we came from, where our souls inhabited certain forms on Earth. The end.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Blue Rose, the chromatic stone? Soul. I'm so sorry. God damn it. The chromatic soul. It made perfect sense, too. I'm such an idiot. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Blue Rose, the chromatic soul. Well done, Justin. Fantastic game.
So good.
A lot of fun.
So good.
You guys did fantastic.
Well... ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with us. That was a lot of fun. Love playing animals. Such a nice break and dramatic heaviness, which I don't think was that intentional to be so heavy. I think we sort of steered it that way.
I think, well, yeah, no, it was intentionally supposed to be heavy.
Okay,
I mean,
It's like cartoon shit mixed with like feels.
Oh yeah, lots of feels. Lots
Good.
of feels.
Good. That was sort of what I was thinking it was going to be, tone-wise. I think we hit it well. So,
Yeah.
Well done, Justin. Well done, everybody. And thank you guys for hanging out and watching with us. But it's not over. We still have end game experience points to reward. So who do we think gives a little bit? Gives a little bit.
I already voted.
Yeah? Perfect. First off, I should, though, share...
so many good GIFs, so many good images.
Check this
Carly
out. Carly
fucking
did this.
did it.
So good.
What? That's amazing.
Isn't that beautiful?
So
great.
good. My new
Carly's
backdrop.
Always making it happen with the
Always
art.
so dope. Yes, you did give your vote, and I agree. I think we should give it to that person.
Perfect.
So, I think we're going to award Endgame XP to the one and only Bjorn. My good buddy Bjorn, who was super awesome. Joe, why did you vote for him?
He said the queen wields it.
Yeah.
There was just a number of pithy remarks that Bjorn made, apart from like the funny shit that he's always like known for, contributing to the game. And this is one where I felt like I could really read what was happening on the Discord as the game was happening, and I thought Bjorn had a lot of really good contributions. So
he's a clever boy.
Applauso.
Well done. And I also realized that there's, again, now that we fixed all those issues last week, the delay is really tight, which is nice.
It's super tight. It's like 6 seconds, less
It's
than
not
10.
that. I think it's 20, but it's like really
Really?
nice. Yeah, I was timing it and sort of, it could be me watching it, but it seemed really tight, which is really nice to be like, whew.
Yeah, it's awesome.
They're sort of right there when we're dealing with stuff now, which is fantastic. But that's
Yeah.
it. From us, Justin, again, fantastic job. A lot of fun. Felt
So
very
good.
what
I
you were
can't
thinking.
wait to play in this world a little bit more.
I would love to play again in this world. Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
You've established a really cool sort of...
Good system. And can I just say that, like, starting off by doing a little, like, imagination
nice.
exercise and everything,
Yeah.
that was beautiful.
Very
Loved
Thank you.
that.
I'm
Very
glad.
fun.
I enjoyed it. That was
Good.
a
It
lot
was
of
like relaxation. The stream liked it too.
meditation.
I needed it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out. Hope you have a fantastic night. We will see you next Wednesday. Same bat time, same bat channel. And as my friend Joe always likes to say...
It's my bedtime.
It's a bedtime. Good night.
Good night.
Night, everyone.